Author's Press.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Buzz. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Franz Rothe, and we'll be talking about his book, Recalling Past Life, about days forgotten, dreams dreamt, books read, and some flute music. Franz, would like to introduce you to the show. Would you like to say hello?
Yeah, so usually I do a bit flute music, and I teach mathematics, and I write math books, but that is the book which recently I begin to do. Yeah, can you see it? That I want at least to show it to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the English version with Urlink there. And yeah, it's made together of many small pieces, short paragraphs which I have written on several occasions. That starts with a schoolmate who asked all of our class to do such a thing, and write out our school experience, and also about what we have later done of our career or not career. It doesn't matter for him. He wanted just to get pictures of different impressions of different of his classmates. And that was quite motivating for me. And some of these small pieces which I have written on this occasion are herein. And the other motivation is that I have done many CDs, actually 3 originally, from which this all comes. This here is the third one. There you see me playing flute together with my pianist Thomas Turner, and yeah, that is now already gone. That's around 2000 and before. And yeah, these CDs, I wanted to explain also a bit what kind of music I did there and why. Yeah, and the best, I think, is in this second CD here. That here I reproduced later on a bit. There are some works which I like most. Yeah.
I love the album covers. They're really pretty. that was a great photo, and then that one had interesting artwork on it. Yeah. But Franz, can you tell us a little about your inspiration behind your book? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but speak a bit slowly. I'm now retired since 5 years, and I'm no longer into that speed of things there. Yeah.
My apologies. I was saying, can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for your book?
Yeah, the inspirations for this book. Yeah, this book. Yeah, that is really coming from gathering things which would be lost otherwise. The inspirations come mainly from the motivations from my schoolmate, as I mentioned already, and from talking a bit about my music making, and well, then also from the talks with my schoolmate about political things and about psychology and literature that were his interest, and I try to contribute also there a bit, especially if it's not my first interest. My first interest is mathematics and flute playing, yeah. And all these small paragraphs I could put together to a book, which was kind of a surprise for me as well, because originally it was not planned to be a book. It's different from the math books, which many I have planned to be books, but also the music CDs I have planned to be like this. But with this recalling past life, it was different. Yeah, so that I try to make carefully, and yeah, and the recalling past life is really more a gathering of different short pieces than it's a wholesale comprehensive. It's not in any way comprehensive. It's just impressions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, what motivated you to gather all these old notes and memories and publish them?
Yeah, that is really true, that I begin to feel that this all would be lost and totally forgotten if I would not put it together. Yeah. That was mainly the motivation to put it together. And then, yeah, it turned out to be a bit more together than all the parts. Yeah. And I talk also about my father's life here. I had some speech he did on his jubilee. He was an important electronic engineer, and that also I translated parts in English and put a small essay about my father into that book. That's another thing. Yeah. Well, you see, it is not just one topic, it's many topics in some sense. Many different facets of a life, and I could not realize all this at once, what is on this in this book, Recalling Past Life. But one is also somehow occupied more with playing flute and with just mastering some pieces, or one is occupied with writing a math book, like I'm now recently after retirement and all my difficulties with vision. I could better do such things. I have written, for example, this math book in the beginning of my retirement called Modern Number Theory and Modern Algebra Notes. Yeah. And that is not even mentioned in this Recalling Past Lives. That is kind of a bit newer. I have here occupied myself writing this kind of math books. Here's one on classics in graph theory, which perhaps that's most of my teaching here in there. Yeah, now I don't want about what you want to talk here most. Yeah, there are many ways now to go on. Yeah.
And so and your interest in literature, how did that awaken after retiring due to your poor eyesight?
After retirement, well, that was at first my schoolmate who motivated gathering these notes about everybody in our class. He was also very much interested in movies, and therefore I looked also some classical movies and talked with him about that. And then I got interested in movies about important literature, especially some classical movies. Especially I like the Jane Austen movies, not the oldest one, but a bit newer ones of them. This I find quite charming, how they make clear the life difficulties of the lower gentry, and that caught my interest. And then also Claude Chabrol's movie, Madame Bovary, and others, and many of these things. I talked a bit about those things with my schoolmate, and of this exchange came also that we talked a bit about Kafka and some of his short stories, especially the one, A Country Doctor, which fascinated me a lot in the way it's taught by Gerd Westphal, and also about this story of Kafka, A Country Doctor. I have written a bit something of my remarks in that Recalling Past Life. Yeah.
Wow. And can you share some of the challenges that you might have faced while translating and extending the English version of this book?
Yeah, I came to the United States already 30 years ago because of my career. I was studying in Switzerland with a professor who was half-time, also professor in Chapel Hill, and he had some connections and liked to support me there. And then I came for first 1 year to Chapel Hill and later on to Charlotte, yeah, which is now my home place since
Yes.
30 years about, yeah. And there the university was the main place where I had my career in mathematics. Yeah. And
Got
also
it.
I learned the pianist Thomas Turner there also, yeah. And well, in Germany, I wrote already a lecture note in mathematics there. That's very old now, but you can still buy it with Springer, yeah. And then, well, you know, then most of the time I did, of course, teaching. That's a bread and butter thing, just to get around with the students and do a nice course which concentrates on some things which one can learn in a short given time. You know that, yeah.
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 And so how did your background in mathematics, physics, music influence your writing and the themes explored in this book?
Yeah, in this book, the background of mathematics comes about all the time and cannot be hidden. And my intention was really to make it clear that it makes sense to write about relatively normal life, not about only the catastrophes which take most of the attention. And I wrote about a bit about yeah, my teaching, not very much, but a bit also. And I made a bit of parody of my attempts to get attention by pretending myself I would be a plumber instead of a mathematician. And I like to tell such stories if I came just from the tooth doctor and could hardly teach something meaningful. And that is also some story here in this here. It's called Get a Plumber, yeah?
Yeah.
And that is perhaps a bit amusing there. Yeah. And also I wrote about the story which my PhD advisor told me, how he learned get acquainted to his wife, yeah, just by carrying a suitcase and then going to a conference, and then the other people in the conference didn't like a mathematician there. And that is also a short story here. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so can you explain or elaborate on the connection between these memories, like your literary criticism, humor, your love for cats, philosophy of mathematics, Flute, dream experience, and the Kafka? How did they all connect?
Not everything is here related. The philosophy of mathematics is related a bit with my teaching and my trying to understand things clearly. I still believe that teaching is one of the best ways to clear up one's own mind. And especially it's of course important to write down things clearly after teaching. And from this written small pieces which I have written down already, they already gave the nourishment, the food for my books here. That comes from my teaching in summer school here. And so that is a relation between teachings and writing clearly for me, which is quite close, and between teachings and understanding, and teachings between and being clarified about one's own thoughts. Yeah, that I had this habit always, or got it or at least try to get it, of course. It looks all different from another perspective. I know this for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about your experience as a professor at the University of North Carolina, and how did that shape your perspective as an author?
Yeah, in North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I I got really used to be more obliged to this teaching, and that also got some input for my writing there. I could write there more than just about research, and yeah, the also honestly to say, the less frustrations with teaching got me also very much into music back. If I
Mm.
didn't like the teaching anymore, then I had this as another occupation to do music with my pianist friend,
Yes,
he
Thomas.
and Thomas Turner. He retired much earlier than me and spent a lot of time with flute and piano music.
Mm.
So my teaching was not always a clear-cut good experience, but I think I was a satisfactory teacher nevertheless. Yeah.
That's good. And can you tell me a little bit more about your collaboration with Thomas Turner in the development of classical music repertoire for flute and piano?
Yeah, that came. I play flute very much and intensively since youth, but with the years I learned I need also to do a bit of piano playing, which
Mm-hmm.
I did from time to time, but not so intensively. And I looked for a teacher, and then I got acquainted to him, and we got into talking. And he was just on the verge of a retirement, and therefore he had much time to spend with me to study some classical music. He likes especially Schubert, Franz Schubert,
Mm-hmm.
and we played the Withered Flowers of Franz Schubert, which is on the piano side a very hard piece,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that got me really into intensive music. And then what I also liked very much is Francis Poulenc's Flute Sonata.
Hmm.
Uh, that we also studied, and we played this in several retirement homes and such places.
Yeah.
And then this whole collaboration developed more and more, and for about nearly 10 years we did this weekly and always studied new pieces. And a list of some of these pieces and some few words about this are also written in the Recalling Past Life, especially um, one of the pieces which I arranged for two flutes, because Thomas thought it's for flute and piano, not really the right thing. That is also has been re-recorded by two other famous flutists, because I have published the written music. Then it got
Hmm.
around there, and is really known as this
Yeah,
CD
yeah, yeah.
Luminance.
Huh. Wow. Well, how do you balance your passion for writing with your love for music, and do you find any similarities between the two?
Yeah, of course, this all happens over the years, and uh, there are times where one is the main thing. Mathematics was the main thing. At the time I wrote this lecture notes there. This was before I got a professor, before I got to the States. There I
Mm-hmm.
need really weekly and without relentless work on this there. And then there are times where I felt, yeah, now the teaching gets a bit more routine, and then I had every week 1/2 day or more even spent with Thomas Turner and doing more music. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then unhappily enough, Thomas got is a bit older than me, to be honest, and needed some rest somehow, and his wife did retire also. And then this connection loosened again, and then I did again more mathematics, and then I got very interested in geometry, and I have gathered the material for this big volume of geometry books. There you see a nice figure which I invented there to
Mm-hmm.
explain algebra and geometry, how they are related. That
Yeah.
is that is here. perhaps the figure which one doesn't see so often on a geometry book. Yeah. And yeah, so then I came back to this, and then nowadays I'm writing the math books, and the music is kind of nearly forgotten. Yeah, that is a pity, but it is that way. And I'm mainly occupied with writing my math books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I cannot work anymore so hard. But I have also then used the music still to incorporate some of the pieces here in this German version of my Recalling Past Life, which has the title Tagesreste, and that's an audiobook, which you can also find online.
Yeah. And actually, that kind of leads me to ask you, what made you decide to release the older German version as an audiobook with the accompanying music?
Yeah, it was originally in German, this audiobook, because it came from exchanges with my school friend and
Yes.
memories of my father. Only the parts about music, which I did together with Thomas Turner, are originally written in English. And so it was more natural to put there in. Thomas, excuse me. Excuse
Bless
me.
you. Bless you. Gesundheit.
Yeah, Thomas was quite enhanced and charmed by German music. He liked Franz Schubert also, and therefore that fitted better together with the German version, the music which we did. It was not purely German, but also all European music. And therefore I put this there in, and I think several pieces which I didn't like so very much, which is of Canzone Populares by Manuel de Falla, which somehow Thomas liked to play here. They are originally for a singer, but he had the endeavor to push me a bit to that style, and that fit very well to the Kafka stories, and that I put together there in the German Tagesreste.
No. Gesundheit again. Well, that's amazing. I really, it's really interesting how you have so many passions and you're able to balance them all. And going from something so creative like, being an author to something so, logical like math. It's really cool that you're able to combine all of them. It's very rare. But so, what advice would you give to, let's say, aspiring authors who are looking to publish their own books?
Yeah. The truth, the good side of it is, if one puts different aspects of one's life together, one cannot be all what one can be in one moment. Every human being is more than what he or she is in one day of his life. And there are different times with different major interests. And if one sees this and can react to it in some way, which means also one needs to put down one present main interests and not think I can do this later always. But if some piece of something which one has just done this day, or one has taught this day, or one has tried to do or try to explain this day, one should write it down pretty soon and gather one's thoughts. So a diary is a traditional way to do this, but even if it's not a formal diary, to write down almost every day what is really important for oneself, that helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And beyond this, it is hard to give some advice, because during life a person changes more than he or she expects, perhaps, of himself.
Well, yeah.
One should, of course, see that on the money side, with marketing, one is a bit clear about one's goals. It also helps to have an author in one's an audience in one's mind, to which the book or the part which one is now occupied, to whom it could be addressed or is addressed. So to remember that, and imagine that one has an audience, or a person, an old man or a young woman or a child or some charming person, to which one wants just especially address that small story. That would help a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Well, are there any future writing projects or endeavors that you're currently working on?
No, I don't think I can repeat that, what I did in Recalling Past Life. I cannot repeat this. This would be a duplication. I have already several versions of this book here. That is the most handsome, with Urling. Yeah, but I would have to write a book about cat, or a book about the difficulties to publish a book. Yeah. Then I'm currently occupied to write math books, and I have in my pipeline a book called My Thoughts About Solving Mathematical Problems. That is the way to go more in a context of general interest, even in mathematics. That I will still try, and that it will be published hopefully soon.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I really look forward to that. I think we all do. But for now, Franz, if you don't mind, telling us where we can get your current book.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know what I should do now. I can perhaps try to play some music which I like especially good, which was also on YouTube, but I don't know whether I find this now so quickly here.
Well, Franz, if possible, can you tell the listeners where we can get your book?
Yeah, they can get my books. They can get on Amazon and in Barnes and Nobles. And I'm in the process to set up a website, but this is yet not running there. So the CDs, one can get the single pieces on Amazon under my name there. I like especially the Robert Schumann fantasy pieces there, and from Benjamin Godard, a piece called Legend Pastoral, that was and is still, I think, on YouTube, and perhaps the people like to hear that. Yeah.
I think so, for sure.
I really can try to play this for you again here, that you perhaps remember it.
Well, Franz, what we can do is we can put a link in the description, or perhaps let the listeners know so they can listen to themselves. It might not sound very good going through your computer audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just to focus on your book, can you just tell us a little bit? I mean, is there anything else that you would like to say to your listeners regarding your book?
Uh, yeah, be more optimistic about about yourself, and don't forget that every day you can do something a bit important, and that perhaps you can keep a bit by some writing or some notes or diary or other way on the computer or any way you like there, or recalling it, and then yeah, get somehow uh, your peace with the idea that life will always change and be not always as expected. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. Those are great words, Franz. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much all the questions that I had. But yeah, Franz, thank you so much for coming on. Can you just tell us a little bit about your experience working with Authors Press?
About what, please?
Can you just tell us about your experience working with Authors Press?
With Authors Press, that was a very good experience. I get very friendly and talk about my cat and about what to do with my books with some of your co-workers, and that's a very good experience.
That's great. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
So for all listeners, this has been Franz Rothe. We have been talking about his book, Recalling Past Life, about days forgotten, dreams dreamt, books read, and some flute music. Franz, thank you so much for coming on. For those interested, it's a very, very, very insightful book. Franz is a very interesting author who balances creativity and mathematics and philosophy and cat stories. And it's overall a really good read and a really good time. Franz, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciated you for your time.
Yeah.
And for those looking to get his book, once again, that's Recalling Past Life, about days forgotten, dreams dreamt, books read, and some flute music by Franz Rothe. And you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and of course, Authors Press. Franz, before I leave you today, is there any final words you'd like to say?
No, I cannot see myself now anymore. Can you see me still?
Yeah, I can still see you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that is good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Yeah. So goodbye then. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. So.
Thank you so much for your time. Goodbye, Franz.
Yeah.